Hello YouTube, my name is Danielle Carter and I am here to talk about my experience with taking the National Counselor's Exam. I had to think about that for a minute. But yeah, so I took the NCE January 10th and it was nerve-wracking. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to keep it 100. I had all the nerves. But one thing I did remember, which is from one of the resources that I utilized, and I'm gonna talk about that in a minute, is to recognize the anxiety and tell yourself some things to help you calm down. You wanna catch your stride during this long 200 question test. You do not wanna be sitting there with all the nerves. You wanna recognize it and, just whatever works for you. Like for me, it was telling myself that I believe that I can do it, that I've done everything possible to get to this moment so that I would be able to pass the test. So just reassuring myself really helped me in that moment when I had all the nerves. So let me just back up a little bit. I registered online at Pearson VUE to take the test online from the comfort of my home in my office, which was amazing because I didn't have to go into like one of the testing centers. I was able to settle down and do a little bit more studying and just, take a walk and then sit down for the test. So my exam started at approximately 5 o'clock. I had to take about 30 minutes to, check in, make sure that my laptop was up to par, that it was suitable for the software that they use for you to take the test. So I did all of that pre-test stuff. I gave myself 30 minutes. They actually came on camera and asked me to, check my surroundings, make sure that there's no books or anybody around, and that was fine. But just to get to the test itself. So, again, it was, I believe it was 3 hours, 200 question test, multiple choice. And it was basically everything that I studied. All of these tools that I'm about to tell you that I utilized was on the test. So it was not like a surprise or like I was taking a test on a subject that I did not prepare for or I didn't go to school for. So I say all this, it seems like a no-brainer, right? Like, duh, Danielle, I know that. No. Your confidence meter have to be up for this type of test. Like, this is not a test that you can wing it or like study, I don't know, I would even say 2 weeks before. Like for me, I needed a good 2 months of studying at least, very least an hour a day. And on good days where I have more free time, I did 5 hours. And that consisted of basically watching videos and reading over information that I had and testing myself using flashcards. So I needed those 2 months. I needed 2 months to basically help me with my confidence also, right? Because we all have that voice in the back of our heads sometime that comes up and it's like, are you gonna pass this test? Are you gonna do well? Do you think you really can, like, that little doubt, right? You have encouragement, sometimes you have doubt. I needed to be able to combat that doubt with, Danielle, you done sat here and studied for how many hours, how many weeks, how many months? Sure, you're gonna pass that test. So I needed to give myself that, and that helped me the time. So when those voices of doubt came up, I was able to counteract it with, Danielle, you've done your due diligence and you're gonna pass this test. And that was the attitude that I had to keep. That's very important. So no further ado, I wanna tell you some of the tools that I utilized that helped me pass the test, for sure. So I used the Encyclopedia of Counseling by Howard Rosenthal. If you've been on YouTube like I've been on YouTube, you know that he is the man when it comes to this. Even from his videos and cassettes, yeah, he has it. Now, I've heard a few people say that they didn't like the formatting of the book and it was hard for them to read. To each his own. But that's why I say use this in conjunction with other tools, because what you don't want to do is solely rely on one thing, and you might be an audio learner, right? You might be a learner that's visual. You might be a learner that's visual and audio, so you write things down and you have to go back to it. So there's so many different ways that you can tailor your study habits to suit your needs. Now for me, I definitely went online and utilized audio and visual. I was on YouTube University like nobody's business. And it's also free 99, so your girl was there. Some of the tools that I use on YouTube is Dr. Pam's YouTube videos. Type it in. You can type in Dr. Pam NCE. A plethora of videos are going to come up. And the thing I like about Dr. Pam is that she really goes into detail to help you understand the why, not just for studying, but so you can take it further in your career. You know what I mean? Like, you get a client that comes in and he's retired, but he thinks he may need to go back to work for income purposes, but yet he's feeling a little bit like he didn't give, enough to society. Like, what theorist comes to mind when you think about somebody having an existential crisis? So it's like, I'm going to leave that there for you. I'm not telling you. Look it up. What theorist comes to mind? And what theorist comes to mind when you think about id, super ego, right? When you think about stages of development, when you think about, look, I could go on and on, but that's the way that you want to study. You want to connect the theorist with the theory and the way that you can also utilize it in session with a particular client. So if you have a client that comes in that's 17 versus a client that's 71, but they're having career issues, what would you look at? You would pay attention to, right? Who comes to mind when you think of career development? Super, right? Roles. So this is what I want you to kind of get in mind when you think of age and when you think of career roles. Try to connect the theorist to the theory and what does that mean for you as the counselor, because that is the way that the test is formatted. It causes you to think. It's not going to ask you what was Freud's theory, what was Erickson's stages. It's not going to do that. Tell me about Super's roles. It's not going to do that. But it's going to word it in such a way where you're able to catch those words that connects to that particular theorist, right? When you think of stages, when you think of id and ego, and when you think of roles and career development, who's going to come up for you? So that's what you want to think about. Now, I will tell you that I read that there are different versions of the NCE. And I guess they do that to ensure that nobody's plagiarizing or taking the test and handing it out. I get it. The version that I took recently, January 2024, was a buttload of career development. So much about career development, and it makes sense because it speaks to where we are as a society. There's a lot of things going on with people living longer, people changing jobs, Gen Z, millennials, all of us really, we're all everywhere, but it speaks to where we are. So people are really looking for, what's my thing? What's my niche? Where do I belong in my career? So it also talks about like career development as a process. I saw a lot of that. It wasn't just cookie cutter, like, where does this guy go? It was, according to all of these things that I listed about John, what would best fit him? Is he a realistic, right? Is he, I can't think of it now, but it escapes me, but you know what I mean. Like, where would John fit if he's very hands-on? Where would Sarah fit if she's more social? So all of those things kind of came up on the test. So not to be too long-winded, I just want to let you know that I feel like I have so much to give because I really want you to pass the exam. I really want all of your hard work to pay off. So excuse my almost 10-minute long video. Okay, so other resources that I use was IT exams, with an S at the end. So that's ITEXAMS. I also use test.com, which is test.com. Basically the word test with the S at the end.com. Now this was $39.99. For me, it was an investment. I will go back to it. I will look over those 200 questions that they have there. They also give you flashcards. I will utilize that as well because we all need to refresh ourselves on different topics, theories. It happens. Sometimes we forget. And it's good to have tools at your disposal to be able to go back to. So for me, it was an investment that's going to pay dividends later on, even now. It really helped me to brush up. And that was basically it. I definitely would say have confidence going into the test. Believe in yourself. It sounds very cliche, but it's real. You really have to go in there feeling as though you know what you're doing and that you've already paid the cost to be the boss, and now your work is just going to show. So if you have any jitters, definitely try to combat it with positive thinking, positive reinforcement. If you got to write your name down, I think I read this with Dr. Pam. Danielle, congratulations, you passed the test. Whatever it is to get you through those moments, because it's a long test and it will have you questioning, do I really know this? You will do that, but you can reassure yourself that you do know it because you've studied and you are now at the precipice of becoming the best counselor that you know that you can be, period. All right, so I just want to amp you up. So it's a little amp you up. But know that you can do it and you got this. If I didn't say enough, I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. It was just a lot about career development. I think that's it. I almost want to scream that like on the top of a roof somewhere, because I was shocked to see so much about career development. While it is while it is very important, it was a lot. So if you have been looking at that subject and you've been like, that's a little, please study career development, ethics as well. Understand ethical practices. If somebody gives you a gift, what's the best ethical practice? Okay? Dating your client, which we know is a no-no. What is the time frame? Little questions like that, gear up on, because it's going to help you. And it was a little bit about research, so know your research terms as well. All right? Thank you. Bye.